really at every step kind of look at, does it have to be the conventional, right? And usually it doesn't.
Howdy, Zena. We are
Hi.
back in the saddle. I'm coming to you from a flower shop, plant store meets coffee shop. So hopefully it's not too loud.
No, it's great. I can't hear anything. I think the Zoom is
Good.
buffering out that other noise. But what a cool place to be and to have a coffee.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, exactly. Surrounded
mhm.
by greenery.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good. Okay, so just quickly for folks who
Mhm.
are tuning in for this episode, we are talking with Maria Intscher-Owrang about her startup, Simplyfyber. That
Yeah.
has yeah, this new methodology for making things we use every day, like shoes. Super cool. Um, I mean, what a what an innovator. She's a designer. She'll get into that. It was just a really good conversation with her about the journey and about what she's trying to do to disrupt fashion. So
Yeah. And disrupt plastic molding as well, right? I mean, that's going to
yeah.
be so for all of those folks concerned about plastics and in the world around us, listen to this one because
Mm-hmm.
she is on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just how she describes the systems, describes, how she's rethinking how this whole thing, like she's like, this can be done differently, this can be done better. And she's out there doing it with a whole cool, amazing team. So it's the innovating that is super
Mhm.
exciting and super inspiring. So
Totally. And speaking of innovating,
woo.
um, well, not sure if some of our listeners have heard us. We're starting to do like weekly solo Mark and Zena posts on our social media, mainly Instagram. So you're probably like, if those of you paying attention were like, what is this?
Oh
What's
my
going on
God.
here? We're sort of challenging ourselves to share, short little sound bites every week of something we're doing or thoughts, and posting it on the tie-in social media accounts on mainly Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, so it's not our normal place, but we're getting there
We
slowly.
we are getting there. This is like, I feel so clunky. I will just admit it. I am not an easy social media person. I feel clunky.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so. We're always open to feedback on this. Let us know, but just know that it's coming from the heart, and we're learning how to properly edit the videos and get them out there, and I don't know, just have some fun with this and get out of our comfort zone.
exactly, exactly. It's the comfort zone piece. It's like, strain the brain a little bit, trying to figure, learn something new, shake it up a bit. And I think, this goes to, showing a little bit more about what we're doing kind of in the day, just day to day, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you know, tell us what you think. We are up for
Mhm.
it. We are up for it. And if there's something we should be looking out for, let us know that too.
Yeah, love it.
All right. Well, Mark, you're out and
Yeah,
about. You
yeah,
are at a tech conference, clean tech conference, right?
yeah. I'm in San
So,
Diego right now at a clean tech conference, and I'll be here next week as well for Distributech. It's a huge trade show, and so I'll be doing a little bit of tie-in stuff from there as well, just nerding out on energy technology stuff.
very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, we're out and about. If you're there, say hi to Mark. That would be
Yeah,
cool.
come find me.
Yeah, and just help support these conversations by liking and subscribing and engaging with us on social media now that we're going to be out there a little bit more on the Tie-In podcast channels. That would really help, and it would be fun.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the tie-in. We're really excited today. Today, we're speaking with Maria Intscher-Owrang, who's the founder and CEO of Simplyfyber. and we're looking forward to learning more about what Simplyfyber does. And one of the things that we're excited about here as we kick off our third season is really looking at that intersectionality around fashion and textiles, entertainment, culture, and how all of those things come together, because that's a big part of the conversation, especially around sustainability. If you've heard of some of our other podcasts, we have talked to folks um, in the departments around fashion, around textiles, around costumes, from theater and movies, and all types of different angles. So, yeah, we're excited to speak with you, Maria. Welcome to the time.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I read that you decided that for fashion to become truly sustainable, the industry needed a whole new system of manufacturing. So that's what you're doing. And so in 2021, you and co-founder Phil Cohen started Simplyfyber to try to shake things up and create the alternative. You come from fashion, you're a former executive here at Wang, and you've had your designs across international magazines and whatnot. So you come from the fashion world. Can you just help us understand, like, what's your background in all of this, and why did you think fashion needed a revamp?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've always been a fashion designer. It's something that, even as a young Canadian person up north, I just, for some reason, always wanted to be a fashion designer. And so I had my career as a designer, partly in Europe, partly in the US. When I started working in the US, I actually started working for an environmentally friendly luxury brand. It was one of the first, I think, that was ever set up, called Linda Loudermilk. And I think a few months before I had the interview, I had seen An Inconvenient Truth on video in Italy. And I was really, captivated by it. And it was something that really struck me as important, because as a designer, I'd always felt a little bit guilty for my profession. I was pursuing it because it was my passion, but I also really want to help people, and I want to make things better wherever I am. And for me, this was a good opportunity to figure out if that could happen within fashion. And over the decades working as a designer, in Europe especially, but also in the US, I saw so much inefficiency and waste. And one of the things that bothered me most was, as a designer, you always go to material markets to find your materials. And there were all these big markets. I was seeing a lot of the same mills from year to year, and every year, steadily, there were less and less natural materials, or like the blend was less and less. And I would always ask them, "Hey guys, why is this happening?" And they said, "Well, the price." And then they'd show me like a little graph where the price of cotton and wool go up and the price of polyester is just a little bit less. And they told me that they felt they had to do that to be able to compete. And when I started working in sustainable fashion, first for Linda Loudermilk and second for Bono's company, Eden, I was trying to find natural materials and organic materials and more sustainable new materials. And some of the mills carried them, but hardly any. They would carry like a small little offering. I would go to them and they'd say, "Why are you carrying so few?" And they'd always tell me, "Well, our customers don't want to pay the extra dollar a yard or euro a yard per meter to get this fabric." And then I realized that fashion in the US and in Europe and worldwide, it's so price-based and price conscious that if these natural materials are always going to be more expensive than polyester, the problem is the system. Because if you're using the same supply chain for these materials and you're just sticking a more expensive material in there, it's going to be amplified along the supply chain as you go through all the different steps, and it's going to be drastically more expensive at the end. So that's how I realized what we need is a better way to deal with natural materials that is better scaled, easier, less complex, so that they can compete with plastic when plastic is used like in a sweatshop or in a normal supply chain. So that's really what Simplyfyber was meant to do.
Right. That's amazing. Um, yeah, and also obviously the polyester is subsidized by the oil business and
Oh yeah,
plastics and big plastics. So there's that whole side of things. But from a manufacturing perspective,
yeah.
part of the innovation here at Simplyfyber has been this injection molding, using injection molding tooling of sorts and these natural fibers and materials into to create molds or to create different designs, different materials. Can you speak to us about that? Because that's really interesting.
Sure, I know. For me, I love it too. As a
Yeah.
designer, that's for me the good stuff because it means I have a new tool, a new set of materials. So I'm really excited about it. We get to work in 3D. But really, what we did was we started with the basic building block of fibers, and I at the beginning did a lot of experimentation on like how do you deal with fibers and can you put them together and make a material without having to weave them or knit them. And there were several different ways that we tried to apply these materials. So we tried everything from spraying to molding to casting to um, all kinds of things. Oh, 3D printing we even tried. And the thing that scaled best was molding. And so we also were really inspired by injection molded plastic
Yeah.
and the paper industry, because they're both really good examples of highly scaled industries that deal with a fairly low cost material. So our process is actually like something in between both of those processes, but it made us realize that it is possible to use these fibers kind of in a totally different way than they've ever been used in textiles, and that's really the starting point of where we began.
I love it.
So, I mean, so taking the idea then of trying to figure out a different way to reuse natural fibers, I'm just curious, like, you know, as you're approaching this, identifying the problem and approaching, what you think might be the solution, can you just help us understand, like on the back and on the business side and all of this? I mean, you're looking to disrupt an industry. What does that journey look like for you? I mean, when you started talking about this with people, were they like, nope, we do it this way? Or, like what does that look like?
Actually, we've had pretty good luck with people being very curious because this is so different. Usually the decision makers are our design teams or sourcing teams, and they're naturally curious people. I would say that I think the biggest hurdle is just really getting people to understand what this is, how it can be used, and the potential. And especially early on when we were still developing everything and making everything by hand, and we were really new at all of this. Um, we had to be very lucky with our early partners to find people that had the patience and the bandwidth to deal with something that they couldn't necessarily see but could imagine, and were willing to take a chance on something new. Now we've done a few more things and we've got lots of samples to show and all of that, but I still look back on our early partners and think that's really amazing that they believed in this, and like we're so excited about something new to be able to use that they took a chance on it, and we're really grateful for that.
So are they looking at at Simplyfyber like kind of like a middle person supplier for new materials that they can use in their own fashion houses and products, or is this something that you want to be the sort of the fashion label that people go to and that's proprietary and no one else can use this technology?
No, we actually want this technology to disperse across the globe. So the first step for us is really has really been to just make some stuff, right? And to make it ourselves, make it in collaboration with brands, and just to show people what's possible. Again, because like this is all very abstract until you see the thing in front of you. And then now we're at the stage where we're a manufacturer, so brands can come to us with a shape or an idea or even like a drawing on a cocktail napkin, and we can figure it out ourselves or we can work with them. We try to make things as easy as possible. We've even got examples people can modify and collaborate that way. And then yeah, and then we go and do our homework and make the thing. But eventually, in a couple of years, what we'll be doing is selling the equipment and the raw materials so that people can take this idea and then make it wherever they make their current things. So like the tier one factories or the production partners, or even sometimes in-house in the brand. Because we want this to be spread as wide as possible. And the nice thing about it is when we start to do that, it really means that people can localize their supply chains because, you know, we can accept a wide variety of raw material sources, and, you know, it could just make things a lot less global and more simple.
Right. And so let's say I'm just making this, but Louis Vuitton or someone wants to make a handbag,
Mhm.
right? Talk us through what that looks like. They would approach you and say, "Look, we saw your material at a trade show, or we've been following you. Um,
Yeah.
what does that look like?"
Yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like. So, you know, we usually meet people either through trade fairs or they contact us through LinkedIn or after we get press. Sometimes people see things. And we set up a meeting. We show all of the variety of things that we've made and the different types of materials that they can choose from. And then they tell us what they're looking for and what need this could cover. And then we work together on what the product could look like. Again, like every design house is a little bit different. So some people will just like give you the shape and you put your stuff on it, or like you make the mold from it. But others will say, well, I like that one. Can we have a different version of that? And everything in between. Yeah, again, because like sometimes the teams are small and they just like they're rushing to do anything, and sometimes the teams are really big and they even have 3D capabilities. So it really depends.
What I love about all of this and how you're talking about it is it's it seems like a simple process. I mean, the way you're talking about, well, they just, contact us and we show them, and, you can have a localized, manufacturing, and supply chain. So I like that's to me sounds quite different than the way the industry is currently operating, where there seems to be, maybe a lack of transparency, and then things are happening far away, and you don't have that oversight, and all of that is. As you've been talking through this with folks, is this like, I mean, to me, it seems attractive, but has this been, kind of like, yeah, this is wonderful. Have you received positive feedback on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, nowadays with global supply chains, your raw materials will cross the globe several times before they actually
Yeah.
you as a product. And people, especially right now with all of the tariffs happening and, questionable situations with shipping, it's it's a welcome benefit for most people, like in multiple industries, like in car industry, fashion,
Yeah.
all of that, because people, yeah, they want low prices, but simplicity also helps lower the price because you don't have to manage it. You don't have to have tracing. It's just one step. So, it all gets a lot easier. You can also choose what you put in it. You can really tailor your story. So, like, there are many benefits, but right now, especially that simplification element really hits home.
Yeah, so it all sounds really positive, and interesting. It sounds like you haven't had that many roadblocks, but maybe that's just the way that you've approached, or have you? Because maybe you've approached it in a non-threatening way. Because sometimes when we see folks that are resistant, they're threatened, or they're seeing their livelihood being threatened, or they don't understand, the implications of it. I mean, am I reading this wrong, or have there been some challenges here that you've had to address that
In
you
in
can?
terms of acceptance within the market,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, you're right. Like people don't seem to be threatened with it. They see it as a tool that they can add and to have more capability themselves eventually. And I think probably the only real obstacle again that we have is just in educating people as to what it is, how to use it, and getting people familiar with that. But in terms of people being worried about their livelihood and stuff, it's just another way to make things. Yes, it's going to compete with the traditional method, but one of the things that I was really thinking of and was important to me when we were setting this up is I always thought that the value of sewn goods is too low. So, sewers don't really get paid enough for their work. And my view on that is that that's because the price of the work is dictated by the price of a cheap t-shirt. So if we take the real mass stuff away and make it automated, and then keep, complicated dresses or chiffon gowns made in the same way, it'll eventually raise the value of that hand labor, right? Because you're taking out the need for it to be mashed into this economy. So that's really how I look at it. And it's not like it's going to be an overnight change either. People have to get used to it. They have to start to have it in their factories. So it's not going to be like taking jobs within a year.
Right, more gradual change over time. Yeah. And when you're talking about education, is it like education on you know natural fiber, the use of natural fiber, the durability, how it holds up, how it compares, that kind of thing? Or is there some other component?
Or I would say it's more like just educating people about the process and how to build it up. Like, for example, if you're dealing with shoes, I have a shoe in my hand right now. This is something we did for Ghani, but this is a good example of a product that is already designed partly in 3D. So most clothing comes from two-dimensional fabric, and then you wrap it around the body and what have you. But shoes are really interesting because they're kind of a blend between 2D and 3D when they're traditionally made. We're just making the shoe more 3D. So it's not just the sole that requires, the 3D execution, but now it's the upper. So that's one of the reasons why footwear was an early market for us, because people already had a good understanding of the needs of that. And same thing with the auto industry. Like, I'm
Yeah.
holding the car part here, they just gave us their shape. And then we put we made a mold from it in the right pattern. But So there are industries that are already used to that, and there are industries that are less used to that. And then on top of that, yeah, Zena, also a little bit what you were saying with getting to know the look of the fibers, I'd say would be the other piece of the puzzle. So with all new materials that you haven't tried before, there is an element of unfamiliarity that makes it hard to predict what the outcome is going to be. And even when we were starting Simplyfyber and making our first things, like I didn't even know what they were going to look like until we made them, and that was really fun, but really scary. And so, that's the other thing. We want to be able to show people in person or like send them materials so they can really see and feel what it's going to be like. So it's not as scary. But there's always, whenever you're working with something that you haven't worked with before, you don't always get it right when you see the real thing. It's not like always what you thought it was going to be. Sometimes it's way nicer. Sometimes it's just different.
Yeah, and then things for me that come out is like, how a product wears over time, right? Or how that material looks after it's been worn on 50 times or whatever, because there's that durability factor that comes.
Mhm.
I mean, you just showed this mold of a red auto part. I'm assuming that's an internal something inside the car, not a bumper.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe it's for a chair or upholstery or your dashboard. Um, but yeah, things like that, especially, right? You're like, okay, this has to last for 20 years.
Yeah, yeah, it has to last for 25 years. Yeah, and we've got a ton of material testing in-house and also with a partner university that we work with to be able to determine that our materials can withstand that. And the first huge hurdle was making materials that we couldn't rip. And then the second huge
Mhm.
hurdle was making materials that could actually be a shoe and like meet shoe standards. And then it was actually, I don't know, probably about a year work to get those materials to work within automotive standards. But now we're hitting those standards and beyond, and we're even starting to see like beyond where it can be even better in some cases. So
Wow.
it's really exciting, and like this is such a new frontier that we don't even always know what to expect, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you almost have the material is going to drive the product or is going to drive the thing that maybe no one thought about or the applications that no one thought about.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I love working at Simpifyber because it's really three things hand in hand. You've got your materials, you've got design, and then you've got the technology and the process itself. So those three things combined together, we've got three different disciplines of people on our team that all have to work together. Like it's very dynamic because of that.
Yeah, I was going to ask about your team and like, what, who's on your team? Like what types of expertise do you have like all, commingled in this wonderful team?
Yeah, a lot of engineering talent. So we started with our materials team. So those are a lot of chemical engineers. Some specialize in cellulose, some specialize in polymers, and some are material scientists. And then we've also got our mechanical engineering team, who, have created machinery for us to create these things at a higher scale. And we've also got our design team. So all of those three components work together. There's a lot of crossover between teams. So yeah, it's
Well,
very different from me because I'm used to working with only fashion designers. So it's very
Yeah, and
new.
you're used to being the buyer of the materials,
Yes, yeah, I'm the customer, exactly.
right?
yeah, yeah. I wondered if we could do a little brainstorm together, because we, well, our background, Mark mentioned it at the top, we think about entertainment and we think about, film and TV productions and that kind of cross section of lots of different industries come together. Um, and one of them is costume, right? Wardrobe. And another interesting component, so I can definitely see that kind of like that side. But another interesting component of film and TV is production design.
Mhm.
And that, involves, materials that look like, materials usually made out of EPS foam that look like rocks or, bricks or whatever. And I'm curious, like, you know, like could this help solve the problem of using materials that are harmful like EPS foam?
Yeah, definitely could. In fact, it's funny you mentioned that because I am such a sci-fi fan. It's like I try to live my life in the future as a fashion designer, and sci-fi is how I do it. But whenever I see a sci-fi film and I see either these dumb rubber costumes or just a normal sewn on a sewing machine thing with a normal armhole, I'm like, it just takes me out of the movie. I'm like, in 500 years, we should have found a better alternative to a sewing machine. And so I always wanted to, have us be that new method that that, at least would inspire people to think that it doesn't have to look like some lame thing your grandma ran up on the sewing machine. And then, yeah, also for sets, I mean, we can make materials that recycle as cardboard after you're done with them. So
Yeah, right.
very low waste, and we can also use them to make new products as well. So
Yeah. Well, on that, like I just a funny story, like back in the day when I started this work, probably 10 or 12 years ago, I was on the X Files, and I walked onto the soundstage where they had this, massive spaceship made out of EPS foam, and I'm looking at it like, I mean, one, it's like really cool, and you're like, whoa, and on the other, you're like, just made this out of foam, like, like there's got to be a better way, but like that stuff is used a lot.
mm,
Um, yeah, and I guess that what goes hand in hand, because that's kind of the input, right? To like, natural fibers and whatnot, and you're molding it and you can create lots of things. But I guess the output too is that there's little waste involved in it because you're making it to scale, right? And can you talk about that, the sort of the output side, the waste side?
yeah, absolutely. So it really depends on the application and the formula. We've got several different formulas that we use. Some are more bio-based than others, like for example, for shoes and for a handbag and items that don't have to last 25 years in a car. They can be fully bio-based, 100% made from plants or natural sources. For cars, it's less, but you can always at least recycle it back into itself. But yeah, I mean, my favorite thing is that for the fully bio-based versions, this is a monomaterial, it can be recycled in some cases within the cardboard waste streams. And then in other cases, it can just biodegrade. So we really try to tailor different formulations for different projects. Like, for example, with Ghani, it was really important for them to use recycled clothing. We actually were working on recycling their waste and being able to use those fibers. That's a bit of a longer project, but that's one of the things that we really love. We love to be able to go to partners and say, "What's your waste? Like maybe we can make your waste into a new product that has value." We can use pre-recycled cardboard that's been recycled too many times, can't recycle it anymore. Like we've got a material set that it's we're really flexible with what we can put in it into our materials because we don't have to spin them into a yarn, so they don't have to be all regular and they don't have to be a certain length. We can put a bunch of gunk in there sometimes and get away with it. So it's fun. It's fun to like put that all together.
And, yeah, and just what are you making your molds from? Are you like 3D printed, like in the materials? Like, are you making a metal or plastics? Like, what are you making?
It
Yeah.
depends on how many we're making. We can make early proofs of concept or tests with 3D printed resin. But we generally, if we're making anything more than, 10 to 50 pieces, we want to make that in an aluminum mold.
Yeah.
We don't need to do steel molds because our process isn't as tough as some other things like injection molding. So we can get away with aluminum, which is easier to recycle.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally the best finish is the metal for us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
With aluminum being fully recyclable.
Right. That's right. Um, so I read somewhere that your goal is to replace as many plastic products as possible. Um, so what's next? I mean, like what's the next industry or frontier or process that you're working on right now?
Yeah, that's an exciting question, actually. So as you know, we've been doing footwear, we've been doing accessories in general, and car interiors. I would love this to be a laptop, like not a laptop case, but a real laptop, or like some piece of, because you carry around with you technology and it's always made of plastic or metal, and that's not so nice to have on your body, but you're always like carrying stuff or having them in your house. So this would be a way to replace like the molded plastic in those things.
Yeah.
And it's pretty lightweight material. It's very fire safe. It's got a lot of impact resistance. So I think it would be a perfect candidate for that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, like I never like would have thought of, technology and but there's probably like you look around. Now I'm going to start looking around and noticing like everything that has plastic and like,
Ah,
oh, that that could be a use case.
yeah, totally. Well, that idea for me, it came from I forget which William Gibson novel. It was either Idoru or Neuromancer, but he talked about these people going online and they didn't have computers. They had just like fittings for their hands, and then sometimes it was made of precious metal and like turquoise, or like one was made of little gummy cute plastic things. Like just reimagining how that interface is, like the physical interface between a human and a computer or a bit of technology doesn't have to look like what we see right now.
Yeah.
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 Reimagining is like in a lot of ways it like sounds cool, but it's super hard to get your
Yeah.
mind out of like the current state.
Yeah. Yeah.
For,
It's hard to get everybody else's mind out of there too sometimes.
yeah. So are you I guess there's some proprietary stuff here, probably those trade knowledge and probably some patents or IP somewhere in there. Are you concerned about an industry sort of like start usurping your work or copying what you're doing? Is that already starting to happen, or is this you're so far ahead at this moment that it's you feel you've got a good lead?
Yeah, we've got, I think we've got, knock on wood, we've got a pretty good lead. And we've got patents. So we've got our second awarded patent now, but we've got
Congrats.
seven.
Yeah,
So got like a whole battery of stuff.
great.
And yeah, I mean, it's just every time we visit a client, they tell us, wow, I've never seen this before. And it was kind of strange to me because at the beginning I thought, well, actually, before we started, I thought somebody must be working on this. As a
Mhm.
designer, I was like looking for years for this, and I wasn't finding it. But I think that I think it's daunting. I mean, I'm a designer. I started this because I wanted to see this in the world, but it was really hard to start something and not know the technical side, not know funding, not know how startups work. I mean, I learned all of that just to do this. But it's been a years long study, and I'm still learning and I love it, but I think that is really daunting for people. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I've been at it for over 12 years in the startup scene. So
Yeah, this is what you guys are doing. You're probably learning every.
yeah. Yeah. And I even did an MBA, and out of my MBA, like you learn just enough to just get into real trouble. And then the real MBA or the real learning starts by doing, right? And then you learn that. And so it's just, and it takes, then it's just by sitting at the table, by sitting in those meetings, by getting burned here and there, and hopefully having good advisors, right? And then off to the races. But it sounds like you guys are in great shape. And also congrats on the Grist Award. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
proud of that for us.
yeah. So it sounds like you're doing all the right things, and that's half the battle. You must have some great folks in your corner and great advisors as well.
Yeah, we're really lucky. Not only do we have the best team ever, everyone's so fun to hang out with as well and so smart. But we're so lucky with our investors. I mean, they are really behind us, and they're very helpful beyond just the money. It's actually like having additional team members that we can rely on for, a lot of stuff. So we've really been lucky, and I think it's partly because this is a change that people want to see in the world, and
Yeah,
so it attracts a good kind of person. So
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I know. So, and yeah, I love how there's, tons of collaboration and all around. It's something we talk a lot about too, and just the importance of diversifying within the team, different ways of thinking and creativity. Super cool. We asked this question to guests. I'm really curious to hear your answer. If you were going to create a new playbook for sustainability in fashion, let's say, what guiding principle would be first on your list?
I have to think about that. I think, yeah, I think looking at the entire lifespan and beyond is the most important thing.
Mhm.
Because, for example, I sometimes take issue with recycled polyester as fabric, because that is, something that's already well recycled in its own supply chain. Bottles can be made into bottles endlessly. But when they're put into a pair of jeans, it's downcycling, and it
Yeah,
also releases microplastics, and it's still a bit of plastic in the environment, right? So it's not fully thought through. It's a fun slogan, but like, does it really help? I don't know. I'd say textile to
yeah,
textile recycling of polyester is different because that's not downcycling. But like, if you're
yeah,
recycling bottles into textiles, not so good. So looking at the end of life, looking at also where it came from. Can you use a material that's already been used, so it's not virgin material that you have to mine or grow? Can you use waste? I mean, you can really at every step kind of look at, does it have to be the conventional, right? And usually it doesn't. The difficulty with recycled materials is often the sorting. So one of the important things for our process is that we can actually use mixed materials, and that they don't have to be so
yeah,
uniform.
exactly.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like looking at each problem within each of those little steps as well.
Yeah, it's that intermixing that you can't separate them anymore, right? And then
Yeah.
keeping the clean materials in closed loops so that yeah, they're not being downcycled. There's so much. I mean, the plastics industry has can do a lot already just to keep it from going into microplastics into the landfill, but they're not even doing that.
No, I know. And like, even going back to sorting again, like it's not even that it's technically impossible, like people have figured it out, but it's actually the sorting and the cost of making this all happen and collecting it all the infrastructure. So like this is all kind of new territory. Companies like our company are building up new ways of working, and it doesn't always cost out as the best option in most cases right away. So like there has to be this period where like these kind of businesses can be fostered by people who really want them to exist. We're as a mission, our company, we're really trying to get to the point as quickly as possible where we are at least at cost parity. So this year we're going to be actually doing full production scale to be able to do that. But it's a really big challenge within new materials in general.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get you onto Star Trek or some other
I would
into
love
right.
that.
Like Zena's got some good connections. We've interviewed some folks as well that have done sci-fi. Um, you know,
Yeah,
that's
I'm gonna pass this on to some production designers and
yeah,
see what they come up with because it would be super cool to get new
yeah.
materials,
And
in
just new
into that.
designs, new cool things, like right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw one really good production for costumes that was unexpectedly forward thinking, but it was like one of the rare few. It was, I don't think they showed it in the US, but it was a Brave New World. Um, I think it was made in England, but it's not available here for some reason. But I saw it in Canada because our lab was there, and they were doing like 3D printed clothing and like
Yeah.
molded clothing. They were thinking that far ahead, but it's really rare that somebody's actually really looking at process because there's a lot of work to do, I'm sure, on a set. So you want some quick options.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Time frames are really compressed, right? Timelines are compressed, so you have to figure this stuff out like really quickly. And so I think that is where the sticking point is in injecting new materials and whatnot, because they need it, they need it to work, they need the shape, they all of that. And so we'll see. At
Yeah.
least gets people thinking.
Totally. Thank
Yeah,
Yeah, Maria, thanks. This has been
this is
great.
great.
Just something totally different, and I love material science
I
and
know.
textiles, and yeah, it sounds like you guys are on the path to greatness.
Fingers crossed. We-
Yay.
Yeah,
Great to meet you both. Thanks for having me.
thank you.
Thank you.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Social media is by Sharon Ewan. Our editor and producer is Rachel Werbel.